Oh, what's up, everybody? This week's update. I did skip last week. I just didn't really feel like doing it because it was Labor Day. Just kind of took the time off, no big deal. I am 3 weeks out now, so things are moving. I'm going out of town this week for a work trip, so that's going to be interesting to navigate. But this isn't a week in prep, or this isn't a week ahead. This is a week in review sort of video that I tend to do. So anyway, this last week, first off, nutrition, I had a little bit of a hard time not eating all of the caramels that I was cooking. So I was like cutting a bunch and eating a bunch. So I had to shift my high calorie day to Tuesday because I was just basically unable to stop eating some caramels. I didn't go over my calories for the most part. My macro distribution was a bit off, but I had everything tracked and I just shifted my high day to Tuesday. So that's just something I had to manage, and so, oh well. But the rest of the week went pretty well. I did have to sneak some caramels in here and there, but they fit within my diet, so it wasn't a big deal. But I'm not going to be making those again until afterwards, just because that was a little bit tough. Just they're so good. So anyway, just going to eliminate some of those temptations from my day-to-day, which is what it is. So that was really the only challenge nutritionally. Weight-wise, I have not really gone anywhere this week. It's been pretty much maintained, maybe down a quarter of a pound, maybe somewhere in there. Just like a small enough increment that I didn't really pay attention to what it was on the scale. There's a little bit of a bump down in my trend weight, but it's very, very low difference. I'm like 138, 137. I did see one all-time low day probably on Wednesday morning. I think I weighed 135.6 that day only. Maybe I was dehydrated. Maybe it was that most of my calories from the previous day were from caramels instead of, not most, but a substantial amount, rather than a bunch of vegetables. So one thing I've been doing is I've been adding a lot more vegetables to my diet, just volumizing a little bit, just to kind of help with the hunger between meals, which is starting to ramp up. Hunger and cravings are starting to show up now finally. And that really started to be something that I had to be mindful of throughout this last week, and something I'm gonna have to pay attention to now, which is fine, no big deal. But it's, challenges are starting to arrive, and that's something that I should expect since everything's been relatively easy sailing so far. And then, I guess, training, no real big difference there. Just a very slow decline in basically strength endurance. So my 1 reps are still reasonably, well, the absolute intensity doesn't feel harder for the first couple reps, but then as I do a couple more reps, it drops off pretty steeply in terms of how it feels. So instead of doing like sets of 8, I'm doing sets of 6. Instead of sets of 4 to 6, and always riding that 6, I'm riding the 4 to 5 now. And so, whatever, I'm just keeping that intensity relatively the same and just barely dropping my volume by reps per set a little bit, just to kind of maintain that. For the most part, still doing a lot of exercises. The program hasn't changed other than that, but that's kind of how training looks. Mood and energy and sleep are all about the same, so I'm waking up at about 3:30 each morning, excited, ready to go, which is kind of weird. I might have mentioned that in the video I never posted, but I'm sleeping basically 6 hours now, so 9:30 to 3:30 naturally. So I just wake up at that time about 30 minutes before what was my alarm. Normally I would sleep about 7 hours. And now I'm closer to 6 to 6.5 hours of sleep, and I wake up. I'm not waking up hungry. I'm just waking up like I'm ready to do today. I'm just ready to lift, ready to get this bodybuilding stuff going. So that's been pretty sweet. I enjoy that. I like waking up feeling rested, ready to go. Because in my off season, I sleep for 7 hours, maybe 7.5, and then I like snooze like 7 times, which is fine. I mean, it's more sleep, but for some reason I'm not as motivated to wake up, not as just daily excited about my day in terms of training. because training is the start to my day. If I'm really excited about it, I wake up like that. But yeah, that's kind of what I've got going on in recap. Posing, doing that a little bit more, making sure to get that practiced. Physique is going well. I'll reveal what my physique looks like in peak week, which I'm looking forward to figuring out what that's going to look like. I don't think I've really done any test peaks with Cliff yet. He gave me one particularly high carb day. I described in one of my videos before where instead of like 380 grams of carbs for the day, I got 480 or something like that, which from what I recall from his stuff before isn't a particularly high amount of carbs to test, but it might just been like let's just see what a like half dose of carbs or less would look like, but we'll see. I trust the process. I'm not worried about it. Honestly, I feel pretty confident with my physique without a peak, assuming I go in fed with just calories tapered up. I feel pretty much ready. I can get a little bit more lean on the glutes, maybe pull some fat from somewhere. I don't know. Pretty lean. Maybe not Brett Freeman day before Worlds lean / conditioned, but I'm on my way, and we'll see if I can get there. Maybe not for the first show. We'll see what show I end up landing close to that, if I do, or if I beat it. We'll see. I've got my goals. We'll see how it lands. Let's see, topics. I went to OCB Yorton Cup on Saturday. It was a lot of fun. It was good to see. I really only went for the men's bodybuilding. Sorry, everyone else. But I drove down there, watched men's bodybuilding, watched all their posing, watched classic bodybuilding as well, Heat 1 and Heat 2. Then I went to the vendors and hung out, got some stuff from Core Nutritionals and the Muffin Man. I was really hoping Legendary Foods was going to be there as well, so I could grab some Pop-Tarts. I don't really care enough to buy them online, but if they were in person, I was going to grab some. So I got muffins instead, which were pretty good. Anyway, back to the Yorton Cup. So I watched the men's bodybuilding, and one, it was great to see the physiques that were on stage. I've got various opinions on like how conditioned they were. Some of those dudes were just absolutely massive, but honestly, I was just mostly bummed to see how small the crowd was and see how there was only 9 pro men's bodybuilding. I don't know how that compared to the rest of the groups. Maybe there was a shit ton of shit ton of physique athletes or a shit ton of women athletes, but from the crowd and from the men's bodybuilding, like 9 people, it's kind of it was a bit disappointing to see. There was like one lightweight and then a bunch of heavyweights or whatever, but yeah, it is what it is. I was excited to be there, and I definitely bought stuff from the sponsors to support both the bodybuilding and the sponsors, and I was excited to purchase a ticket for the OCB to just help support natural bodybuilding as a spectator, not just as an athlete, which I think is important. If there's shows that are local to me, I'm going to go to them, assuming they're within my means to do so, which is in part why I'm trying to go to the ANBF show that's coming up this year, but this will be as a competitor, as well as maybe attend the 2 OCB shows that are coming up. There's a Fayetteville one in December, or Fayetteville one and a Charlotte one again in December and November. I don't remember the dates exactly, but I'll either attend or compete in those depending on how budget, physique, or whatever allows for. But I don't know, maybe you'll see me compete in OCB, see how I can do in that federation as well. I don't tend to compete in there too much. They're a little bit too restrictive on who you can compete alongside with. So like I wouldn't be able to do ANBF, and ANBF has been great to me. I'd like to compete in the OCB, get that pro card, and say peace, I'm out, or at least compete in that and then move on to other stuff maybe do 1 or 2 pro shows before I get disqualified again for competing in ANBF. Whatever, I don't really give a shit. I'm not really here for the politics. I'm here to compete and have fun, and bring a great physique. So the things I really care about are competing in like WNBF. I might try some of the other ones, PNB. I don't remember the name offhand, at least in front of the camera right now. But yeah, ANBF, WNBF, PNBF. I might be confusing that with the British one. Anyway, whatever the federation is that has the height classes instead of weight classes. I don't know, you all probably know. I'm not as well versed in it as everyone else. But yeah, that's kind of the random topics, was visiting that. Just one miscellaneous update. I'm gonna try to update and take various videos of my travels this week, including my preparation for traveling, what I'm gonna do to have my meals ready, what I'm gonna do while on the road. Because what I'm doing is I'm traveling with work and visiting breweries and restaurants as part of a tour through the hop valleys, or the hop farms in Yakima Valley, or Yakima Valley, Yakima. Anyway, so that'll be handling a lot of breweries, a lot of local restaurants, stuff like that, and I'll try to get some videos compiled into kind of like a my life traveling in prep YouTube video that will come out sometime next week, probably later than Monday, like I tend to upload if I upload. That'll be an independent kind of video. I'll also include some hotel workouts, I think. It might not have tripod quality because I think I'm going to be traveling with enough shit that I shouldn't include a tripod as well, even though I have a travel case for it. That's not what I'm about. This trip is about work, hanging out with my wife as well, because we work together. She gets to travel. Actually, I get to travel along with her. That's why I'm going. Not because I'm invited, but mostly because they don't have to pay for an extra hotel room, and I get to tag along. So, sweet. But yeah, so that's kind of what the next two things are going to be. I've got posing practice coming up with Cliff this week. Assuming we don't need to reschedule for whatever reason. I'm looking forward to that. Never actually met Cliff in video, so we've just emailed so far. Basically, all of my work with him has been pretty breezy, pretty easy. There's not a lot of stuff that it's not super involved. These are your targets. Hey, you hit them, great. Wow, you're hitting them. Let's keep hitting them and make this small change each time. But that's just because I'm relatively robotic in my approach, with a rare exception of eating a bunch of caramels one day out of all of the days since March. That's when prep kind of started, and everything's been according to plan with no deviations. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to sign out. Bye all.